Right, let's go. It's best to send out your mounted characters first, especially Sigurd and Kuan, because it's imperative that you reach Lachesis as quickly as possible. Even though her 3 Paladin Guardians will sort of help somewhat, they're only going to last a few turns without your help. So yeah, mounted characters out first. Although, you should have Ethlyn stay back a little bit, because Deirdre needs to reach her for another special conversation. And you do actually get an item out of this one, too. Quite helpful item, actually. Yeah, so the item you get is basically a light sword. The light sword is very similar to the light brand in the Game Boy Advance games. Also, that light sword is quite important story-wise as well, because if you played Fire Emblem 5, you'll know that it's actually her son's signature weapon. And her son will most likely inherit it in this game too. Lex is actually quite useful at this point, so you'll want him to get as far forward as possible. Yeah, I accidentally got Midale reduced to 1 HP in the arena, so just heal him. Yeah, Edain's particularly useful for the fact that she's almost guaranteed to heal someone to full HP. Azel needs to get some of the action too. And well, I'm trying to keep Ira and Holland as close together as possible because I'm planning on pairing them. You should do the same for Lex if you've chosen to pair it with Lex, which I'd also recommend. What I'm doing with Dew here is I'm getting him to give the gold he stole from enemies in the first chapter to Edain, because, as I mentioned before, healers have a really hard time getting gold, and the extra money can really help, so yeah, Edain is one of the best targets of Dew's money-giving abilities. So, as you'll see here, these guys are going to reach Noiden in a fairly short amount of time. And none of them are individually dangerous, but all of them together pose quite a big threat to Lachesis' Guardians, particularly Elliot, as he's still got his Silver Lance from the last chapter. You won't need to deal with the defending group until quite a bit later. And at this point, this is the introduction of neutral armies. Neutral armies basically neither help or hurt you really in any way, but in this case, they're actually extremely annoying because, as you'll see in a moment, this guy sends out a whole heap of neutral bandits, which is, yes, incredibly frustrating because they can destroy villages, but you can do nothing about it since you can't attack neutral characters. So really, yes, those bandits are going to go for the villages, and there's nothing you can do about it until later on when they become enemies, and you can kill them. And this Lord's decided to stay out of the combat for now, but you're going to have to fight him later. Deirdre got owned in the arena too, but it's not like it matters that much. Again, just keep heading forward towards Noiden. Yeah, what I was saying before about Ira and Lex, if you are planning on pairing Ira and Lex, make sure they don't fall in love before the next chapter. Otherwise, you'll miss out on a very good item. Trust me, you do want this sword he gives her. Actually, either him or Holland, but we'll come to that later. Of course, if you were stupid and got some people owned in the arena, now's the best time to heal them. Edain and Midale are very close to falling in love. You can actually tell how close you are to pairing certain characters through the fortune teller in the main castle, which I haven't shown yet, but I probably will in the next chapter. Basically, the fortune teller will say various things depending on how many love points certain characters have, although he only tells you about the one with the highest amount of love points. And, well, Arden's lost a lot of his usefulness by this point, but you do need him to advance with your main group because there's actually a secret event similar to the one with Lex in the last chapter that requires Arden. Alright, they've already reached the Paladins. Now, as I was saying before, these three are going to cause me a huge amount of frustration in this chapter. In fact, on a random note, on a certain forum I visit, the three of these guys, Eve, Ava, and Alpha, were voted second worst NPCs in the Fire Emblem series, losing only to the three generic Kalen soldiers and Blazing Sword. And again, you have these stupid bandits going towards the villages, which you can do nothing about at this point. You might notice there's a rather large amount of villagers in there, but two of them give you items. One of them is particularly helpful. Unfortunately, that village seems to be prioritized by the bandits, and it's very difficult to get that item unless you really rush this next section, which I don't recommend if you're playing the game for the first time. So I prefer to just not get that. Right, we're getting close. Just be careful of Elliot. Elliot poses quite a big threat to the three knights. And speaking of the three knights, you actually get a special item if all three of them are alive at the end of the chapter. And okay, I'll just warn whoever's watching this in advance, I'm not going to get that item. Because, well, I just end up getting frustrated with them. If you are going for that item though, which you should be, it's best to focus on getting rid of Elliot as soon as possible, because you don't want them taking hits from a Silver Lance. Again, Sigurd and Quan should be the first into the action, and your other cavalry should then go and back them up, and your foot soldiers follow after that. Don't know why I put Arden there. Deirdre's not useful in this chapter until quite a while in. It's making sure to equip lancers on these cavaliers so we don't get weapon triangle owned. Now, good thing is, these NPC knights are gonna stay in their places until you've reached the castle. Which is good because you don't want any enemies attacking Lachesis, because she starts off very, very weak. Now, if you're going for the Knight Ring, which is the item you get out of these guys, yeah, it's best to pray Eve doesn't die here. Well, he did dodge there, but oh, these guys have this annoying habit of failing to dodge at the most critical moments. Yes, you dodge now when you've got full HP. When you're about to die, yeah, they generally don't dodge. Oh, the fact that enemy cavalry can hit and run is really annoying at this point. You'll see that these guys can just gang up on the NPC knights freely. And yeah, it's only been a few turns and Eve's now in serious risk of dying. But you can heal them, which is good.